what you're going to see is some of the clothes that we've made more recently. So after we made the film, somebody asked me what catwalk meant, like why. And a catwalk apparently was a very narrow bridge on a ship, and you had to walk across it as delicately as a cat. And I thought, yuck. And so what we do is we're subverting the idea, the fashion idea, and we're trying to break down the fourth wall and just really show ourselves and show the work. And before I invite anyone else up, I just want to introduce you to Lila, who is one of my favorite people in a dress. And Lila, you've heard enough from me, and I want you to hear from Lila.
Hi, as Leah said, I'm Lila, and I've been working with a dress for quite a few years now. I've gone from modelling in Subersive Catwalk, such as this one, to speaking in front of crowds as I'm doing now. I've also made a few outfits for a dress. In fact, what I'm wearing today are 2 second-hand pieces of clothing that I've made for a dress. In this dress, I came up with the slogan, "Can we afford fast fashion? The world can't." When I really discovered what was being done to our planet and what we needed to do to fix it, and that people really needed to realize what was happening. And the jacket I'm wearing, on the back, it has a slogan and a picture of a woman that I found who really, in a way, reminds me of myself and my Iranian heritage. And it's sort of a picture you don't often see in the media, especially looking happy or proud. So I think it's really important to show that. The slogan is "My body, my rules," which is a very important slogan for women all around the world. And it really shows that women need to have boundaries and people need to respect those. Plastic pollution, we need a resolution. Recycling alone is not the solution. The fires in Australia make it seem crazier that so many people don't believe, and it is heartbreaking to me that people just don't care, that people just won't care. Can't these people hear? The clothes they buy, the new trends they like, the clothes they wear once and throw away. It brings us closer to extinction every day. So, why don't these people make a change? Whatever their age, all people should unite and fight. Fight for a future. Fast fashion feels sharp and sour and dries up my mouth. It smells like a rotten egg. It is white, like a scrunched up piece of paper. Like water, it is bland and boring. Fast fashion talks through the tears of the people who made it. It is a screeching sound, high-pitched that you can't stand. A dark sky with sun behind the clouds, rough and crumpled up like concrete. Fast fashion is a plan to ruin far-away lands. It is a whisper in your ear, a thick, rough rope, tightening around your tongue. Fast fashion says, "I'm here because of you." It lives in our envious eyes.
So please welcome up Rihanna. This was a jacket that I found in cancer research. And you'll notice on the back it says, "No escape from planet fashion." And it's got a big eye on it. And the quote comes from the Anti-Capitalist Book of Fashion that I showed you. And what Tansy Hoskins says is, you can refuse to participate in the system, but unless you overthrow it, it will always be there when you open your eyes. Come back in again, Rihanna, and just walk round once more, just so people can see it. Great. Thank you for that. So I'll keep you walking, you models. So the next one up is Sheena wearing this map dress. And this signifies the fact that the people who've done the least to contribute to climate crisis are the ones whose survival is most in danger. So sub-Saharan Africa is really most in danger of climate crisis. And it's happening already. It's not something in the future. So the map on the back shows you the areas that are really, risking survival. My God, the models are going very fast today. So next up, we have Beth. And this was half a wedding dress. We cut it in half and dyed it in tea and coffee. And the other half of the dress is black denim that's bleached. And if you can show people what's on the sash, it says "Desert on Fire." And this was made by Marina. She cut the thing in half and made this. And it refers to the Atacama Desert in Chile. And last July, there was a massive fire. It's been like a dustbin for big companies to go and dump clothes that they can't sell. And it caught fire. 100,000 tons of clothing caught fire. And the air around was toxic. It ruined the air for the local communities. And people don't necessarily know about it. And so the other thing is that some of the clothing that was burnt still had labels on from H&M and other high street companies that they really do just, rather than sell things cheaply, they go and dump them. So, and if you get a chance to look at some of these clothes close up, the artwork is really beautiful. So the next up is Charmaine, wearing this beautiful piece by Caroline, who is here today, who's one of the makers. And this was some all-in-one that I found from Boohoo. I found it in a charity shop. And Caroline completely decimated it. She burnt it, and she cut an arm off and cut the legs. And she wanted to envisage what landfill could really look like. So it goes very well with Maggie's piece. All of this disintegrating fabric, which takes forever to disintegrate. And she's also put a few mushrooms, fungus on there for good measure. So, Caroline, you'll have to come and receive your applause later. Thank you. And of course, it's contaminating the soil, contaminating local water sources. Next up, we're going to have a section looking at how women are disproportionately impacted. And we have Fran wearing this beautiful piece, also embroidered by Caroline, which signifies the fact that 80% of climate refugees are women. And we know what happens when women become refugees. They're vulnerable to sex trafficking, to sexual abuse in order to pay for survival. And there's just something very striking, very somber about that fact, how women are so targeted in our vulnerability. This is another hard-hitting piece, actually. And some of you, I'm sure a lot of you in the room know the facts and figures that I'm giving you. But this coat is in honor of Jayashree, who was a young woman. Do you want to just stand there for a second? That's all right. I just want people to be able to see. So Jayashree was a young woman in Tamil Nadu, and she was the first person in her family who was going to go to university. And in the meantime, she was working in a garment factory, and she didn't go home one night, and her family searched for her for 3 days, and they found her body eventually. She'd been raped and murdered, and it turned out it was the supervisor in the garment factory who'd done that. And this is endemic in the fashion industry, that women are living in fear of sexual abuse. They can't speak up, and it could have been averted. It turned out afterwards that many women had actually been sexually harassed and assaulted. And so there's been a massive campaign to get justice for Jayashree, and people were outside some of the high street companies who said that it had nothing to do with them, but their clothes were being made in these factories. And so we're fighting for women's lives. We're fighting not just for, workers' rights, but really for women to live in dignity and unmolested. So thank you. Thank you for that. This next one this is the world premiere for this next one, and I hope you can see okay. Beth is wearing this dress, and it's by Katie Casey. It's a really old crepe dress that a dress was given, and I have to read what the designer said about it. So Katie has been obsessed with the pads that go into bras and swimwear, this kind of assumption that women will want to enhance their body and enlarge their breasts. So she's made a hat out of those breast pieces, and she's made it sort of balaclava-esque and covered the eyes, because sometimes as women you just want to hide, you just want to avert yourself from the male gaze. And then on the breasts there are 2 pieces that she's done. I mean, I'm sure, would you mind if people looked at them closely afterwards? But they're like a how-to guide from women's magazines. One of them is how to attract attention. You know, how you get 10 tips of looking gorgeous or something. And then the other one is how to actually avoid being sexually objectified. And at the back, if you lift your hair, there's a tape measure, which of course is a nod to the whole body fascism, really, about what size we should be as women and how women starve themselves to be a particular size. So thank you, and it's great that that's the first time it's been seen here. The next section is about some of the things we can do to bring about change, small things we can do. So this was a beautiful coat that I got given by Courting Lily, which is our vintage clothes shop in Folkestone. And you have to look really closely at this coat because somebody has loved this coat. It's been so beautifully darned over the years. It's probably 1940s. And Dorrit Young, who's a milliner, has written on the back a quote from Joan Crawford. So care for your clothes like the good friends they are. In demand. Thank you. Please welcome Farida. And this amazing creation was done by Beth, who you saw wearing that black dress. And Beth and I went out on the streets of Folkestone and we asked women, do you have a piece of clothing that you'd never get rid of? And some women looked at us in horror and said, oh no, I buy something new every week. And we didn't quite know what to say to them, and we have to get better at being able to talk to them about it. But women said amazing things like, I would never get rid of the T-shirt my daughter brought back from holiday. It says, I don't want to, you can't make me, I'm retired. Or another woman said, I would never get rid of my dressing gown. It's my comfort blanket after a hard day's work. And so Beth wrote everything that women said on these ribbons and then made this beautiful tutu and put the dress to it. So, thank you so much. And this is what I mean about going out on the streets and trying to engage with people who wouldn't necessarily come to a workshop like this, and how we talk to people about what the issues are. Thank you very much. And next up, we have a pair of 1960s curtains being worn by Cynthia. Look at this garment. Some people keep giving us stuff now, and this woman said, can you do something with 1960s curtains? And Marina, who comes from Kazakhstan, learnt to just make things with material because under perestroika, there was no fashion industry. And so she learnt to take uniforms, soldiers' uniforms, and make fashion. So she took these curtains, and I think you'll agree she's made this really beautiful dress. Not everybody can have, this skill, but this is what we could do. We could just really clothe ourselves in very extravagant and beautiful ways. So thank you, 1960s curtains. And Cynthia. And next up we have Fran wearing this amazing creation by Janet Robinson, who kind of crafted the coat. And Beth did the embroidery on it. And this material is made from green plastic bottles. I have to say, it's not sustainable. It's not, these fabrics, we just don't have the time to find really sustainable fabrics. But is it okay if they touch you? It's based on the shape of a suffragette's duster coat, which used to sweep up the dirt as the women walked along. And what Janet said is that the green bottles, plastic, is the dirt of our century, and we just have to clean it up. And so that's what this coat symbolizes. And here we have Lila again, wearing our Buy Less, Buy Nothing dress, again made by Marina and me. And one of the quotes that's on here is one that Maggie's already said from a Bernardo's research, that British people spend up to £2.7 billion on clothes that will only be worn once. And in the UK, the average lifetime of a piece of clothing is just over 2 years. An estimated £30 billion of unused clothing hangs in wardrobes. So this was made from a white shirt and just some old tap that we found. Put it together. Thank you. Next up, we have another new creation. This one is by Nikki Tomsett, and Charmaine is wearing the greenwashing dress. And on it, it's got the poem that says, greenwashing, a green sheen when a company promotes itself natural, sustainable, conscious, clean. It can be a big old deceit. An eco spell of overhype, a design to make us believe everything is fine. And round the neck it says, greenwashing masks the change that is needed. So we have to be really careful what we're buying. You know, all of the high street brands now are claiming to be sustainable and this, that, and the other. Don't believe it. And the very last one, if you're finished with Charlotte, is we have to remember who made our clothes. We have to remember that 80% of garment workers are women, and there are women at this moment working for absolute pittance to make the clothes that sell. And this dress that Cynthia is wearing, it was a wedding dress that I got from one of the charity shops. And we worked with a group at Touch Base Care. It's a group of people with learning and physical disabilities. And they wrote a group poem in the voice of this dress, talking about how it was made. And I just have to read you. I think the whole poem is on the wall back in the studio. But it says, the factory is sucking the life out of her, exhaling its fumes all over the land. Her back is breaking and so is her heart. Now I am here on your living room floor. You're not sure you like me. Too flouncy, too cheap. Thrown to the back of the wardrobe, my fate. Late night shopping, free postage, a new dress you now seek. Now we're just going to have a finale, and please welcome up all of the models. Thank you so much. And I'd also like you to see a couple of the makers, because we never see the women who make things. So on the right is Caroline Tracy, who made several of the pieces here today, Caroline. And on the left is Ingrid, who's done the most amazing recycling of bags for life. We haven't got them here, but we should bring them. So thank you so... Oh, yeah, why don't you take a bow as well?